Good afternoon, New Bedford Guide. Chris Resendes show here on an afternoon episode. Today's some special guests, both very energetic in their own right, making big changes, whether in the city or in the community in terms of children and parents with our first guest. Been tons of stuff going on. I wish I could do this more often because I have like 100 people lined up that we got to talk and educate you guys about. But today's guest, really going to learn a lot about. One especially that I met yesterday. I'd met her in the past, but I never really had the time to really see what she's doing and the impact she's having in the community. It's tremendous. I was blown away by how selfless this individual is, and how hard she works towards making other people happy, something I'm a huge fan of. And it took, a bad point in her life for her to realize how important it was to, come out and just do well for others and just, do what I love seeing in life. I love to meet people like her. I went home, talked about it, made 20, 30 phone calls after meeting her. I'm like, I'm going to make it a mission to really help this individual out, to help the foundation out. She's just the face of it right now because she's running around getting it going, but there's a lot of moving parts to it. And and then we got the mayor after. So the mayor will be on in about 10 minutes. Please, in the comment section, I don't want to hear that nobody asked the question. If you have a question, I will ask it if it's a legitimate, good question. Mayor John Mitchell comes on here frequently. And we do ask the questions that you ask of him, along with others that we already know want to be spoken about. So with no further ado, my first guest, Jill Fearons from the Friends of Jack Foundation. I even got look at that. Known her for a day, she's already giving me a nice little vest. And it's amazing. It's just in her spirit. Like you could just tell she's a very giving individual. And it's great having you on, Jill.
Thank you, Chris. And I do want to say I am just the quarterback of an amazing team, and that team being our community, people like yourself. I would never be able to do what I do if it wasn't for our community. We live in an unbelievably generous, caring community. And so everything that we're able to do is all because of you. Yeah. And everybody that lives here.
It's so
and it's
true.
Amazing.
You hear the negativity, like, it's New Bedford, it's, the South Coast, blah, 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 blah.
Oh, we're amazing.
But every day goes, and I'm just like, I met this guy, I met that guy, I met
Absolutely.
that lady, I'm involved in this alliance, I'm doing this, we're giving here, these people are donating there, and I'm like,
we're so blessed.
We live in an amazing
especially when it comes to pediatrics. Everybody cares about each other's kids. There is no we work together. And I'm able to see it every day, and I'm so blessed to see it every day, day in and day out, how hard people work for the children in our community.
Really?
So I always say I'm just the quarterback on a really amazing team.
So this team, Friends of Jack, for those who don't know what Friends of Jack is, please give us a background on how this all came to be.
So Friends of Jack has sort of been an establishment for over a little under 4 years, but it fell under the South Coast Health umbrella because I work extremely closely with South Coast Health on establishing programs, raising funding to keep the best quality health care right here at home. And we established the foundation just about 3 months ago so that our umbrella could grow and that I was able to help more kids on the South Coast, working with Child and Family Services, Boston Children's Satellite Location, South Coast Health, Hawthorne Medical. We have really the New Bedford Police Departments and all the local police and fire and EMS. We're just growing and having the ability to really work with all these organizations to do the best, keeping the best health care for South Coast kids right here at home.
Boston Children's, many people don't know. When you go to St. Luke's with your child, a lot of people say, the old-fashioned thing was, I got to take them up to Boston. That's where the best is.
Right.
The best is in Boston. We got to go. I personally have had a great experience with the Boston Children's staff with my son. I went through a difficult situation where we didn't know what was wrong with him. And I'm going to be honest with you, it did feel good inside knowing that it was
Absolutely.
Boston. And I'm not taking anything away from any of the physicians down in this region, but just the name and just, hey, Boston Children's is here to help us. It made us feel good. It was a comforting feeling.
Absolutely. And You are absolutely right, Chris. Every physician on the South Coast is extremely capable of caring for our children. I give them a huge shout out. But we are extremely lucky to have Boston Children's physicians right here in the St. Luke's ER. So when you do go in the hours between 11 a.m. and 11 p.m., the goal is that you do see a Boston Children's physician. If you get admitted upstairs on their amazing pediatric wing, you are followed by a Boston Children's physician. And that goes outside of St. Luke's ER, and they have this brilliant satellite location right here in Dartmouth on Font's Corner that is open 5 days a week, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and every specialist is seen right here at home. I call going to Boston the $100 a day. By the time you take time off of work, go up, see your specialist, there's a lot of families that can't do that. So we need to keep those physicians here for our kids to get the best quality physician right here at home. They are world renowned. They are amazing.
So all that being said, you are amazing with what you're doing. Let's get, what's all this stuff on the table? How does this work? How does Friends of Jack get involved?
Friends of Jack started really getting involved. We do a massive fundraiser in September. It's a really great event. It's really a celebration of what everyone's done for us, and I'm honored to have that party for them. You know, in the last 4 years, we've raised over $600,000, and I'm here to tell you every single penny has gone back to making sure we keep the best health care right here at home for our kids. We started this amazing program with Fund 107 and WBSM called Food for Tots. That began last year, and it runs April till October. And the way it works is we visit every town each month, and we choose 4 of the best restaurants, and they give us 15% of their proceeds for the day, the entire day, 15%. It's a major ask of these restaurants, and they think nothing of doing it. So last year, the campaign raised $87,000, and that was just by people going out to eat. It was incredible.
So you're winning when you're going out to eat, and
you're winning when you're going out to eat. We're helping the kids around, in the district, and it's a really great night. I call it my favorite night of the month. So tomorrow night, it's actually right here at home in Dartmouth, and it's awesome. We have amazing restaurants. We have Max's, Dockside, Cask and Pig, Buster's. We have 2 generous match donors, Barsovic Souza Orthodontist and Toyota of Dartmouth.
Now, what does the match donor do?
So the match donor gives up to $2,500, and they are essentially matching what the restaurants bring in. And for that, they get, a bunch of PR, but most importantly, they are so excited to do it because they're able to give back to the kids in their community. And it's an amazing way to meet people. I've met some of my closest friends through the Food for Tots, and I am so grateful to the community for embracing the program.
So you guys just kind of bounce around, huh?
I bounce around. Like, the finale last year was a hoot because I had to hit 36 restaurants in 15 hours. But every restaurant, you walk through the door and they're so happy to see us.
That's excellent.
And they're excited to give you the check at the end of it all and see what it's done. Excellent. And we've done some pretty incredible things. And then we also offer a lot of other programs, whereas I get joked and I'm called the teddy bear lady because we began donating teddy bears to St. Luke's Hospital about 4 years ago. And then we expanded outside, and now they're in all the South Coast Health Hospitals, Child and Family Services, all the police, EMS, fire, and they all have these teddy bears. And my goal is that no child leave a scary situation without a teddy bear in hand at the end of it. Because we all know kids get sick and are repeat offenders, and we want them to be able to go back and feel comfortable and not afraid. So we began the teddy bear program. It started with us needing about 660 teddy bears a month, and now we're up to about 1,400 a month.
So 1,400 teddy bears is a large expense.
It's a large expense, and I am so grateful because we do teddy bear drives all over. People donate. I mean, there are times I'll go out to my car and find just bags of teddy bears in them that people have donated. There are some rules. They have to be brand new teddy bears. They can't have any loose parts or googly eyes because they're being given to kids that we don't want them to carry germs.
Of course.
So I am so fortunate the way the community has rallied around this. Some of my favorite drives are at the schools when I watch the children put the teddy bears into the bin because they get it and they know where they're going. We also have another program where we are working with the Sheriff's Department, and whereas those children will be given a book and a stuffed animal as they come out from visiting whoever they're visiting there, because it's important for the children to not be afraid of law officers.
And you do the same similar situation with the New Bedford Police.
With the New Bedford Police Department. We have them in all the cruisers for, routine stops. We have them for domestic violence cases. The last thing we ever want is a child to feel afraid. We want them to go to an adult for help, especially an adult in uniform.
Absolutely.
We need them to know it's safe. And then lastly, we have the superhero program. And the way this originated was for my own son. I used to make him feel like he was a superhero in some of his scariest times. So the superhero program is kind of saved for our special kids that maybe need to be transferred to Boston, need to go to the OR. Some of them, it's simple as needing vitals taken. I leave it up to the discretion of the doctor and nurse. And with this program, they get a cape, a mask, and a little teddy bear that also has a mask. These are also in the cruisers for domestic violence cases, because sometimes you put a mask on a child and it can change everything.
Oh, it definitely changes the situation.
It changes, and if it makes them feel safe, even for that second, it's worth everything to us.
100%.
Everything.
It's a wonderful, wonderful program, and literally, we talked, an hour yesterday?
Yeah.
This is just the tip of the iceberg of what she's doing, folks. Again, the restaurants tomorrow. Tomorrow's Dartmouth Day.
Tomorrow is Dartmouth. Fall
Dartmouth.
River Fairhaven was last month, and we raised $7,500.
Excellent.
Dartmouth is tomorrow. It's Max's, Dockside, Cask and Pig, and Buster's, and that'll kick off tomorrow morning because it lasts all day.
All day long.
All day long.
15%.
15%. Takeout, alcohol, the whole shooting match. And it's fun. We have almost 30 of us kicking it off at Cask and Pig tomorrow night. So if you want to come out and join us, it's a really fun time.
My wife's getting her hair done tomorrow, but guess who's bringing his kids with him?
It's a really, really great time. And again, I'm so grateful to you and the community and everybody that wraps their hearts around this program, because it really makes a difference for these kids.
If somebody wants to get involved, donate, if a business is looking to get the tax write-off and the recognition, I'm just going to put it right out there.
Absolutely.
We don't care why you do nice things.
Absolutely.
But just do them, inspire others to do nice things. How do they get in touch with you besides emailing me?
They can reach out to me via the email. They can reach out to me on the Friends of Jack website.
So it's friendsofjack.org?
Friendsofjack.org.
And to you is Jill at friendsofjack.org.
Exactly.
Correct? Excellent.
And we love new people.
I'll edit the description here so that way we can get you some more donations.
Perfect.
I promise you, you spend 20 minutes with Jill, and she'll get you running around for her. She's the quarterback. She sure is.
Exactly.
I went
I'm
home
just
yesterday.
the quarterback.
I'm emailing this one. Got to get into my business alliance. I'm reaching out to other news media, trying to get her some exposure, because, at the end of the day, folks, we can all agree to disagree on many, many topics. But one thing I know for certain that everyone agrees with is they want their children to feel good,
Right.
safe, and happy.
And no matter how sick your child is, whether they're extremely sick or they have a cold, the panic that the parent feels when it's your child, there is nothing like it. And knowing that they're going to be treated here under the best care in the world makes a huge and just a reassurance. And again, like I said, every physician, pediatrician on the South Coast cares about their child as if they were their own. It's the way it works for us.
Excellent. Jill, I got to cut you short.
Thank you so much.
I got the man. Thank you, and I'll see you in the morning.
I really appreciate it. Thank you. Good to see you.
Likewise. All right, guys. That's Jill Fearons. Listen, Friends of Jack Foundation, excellent, excellent foundation. I always have people in the community that are looking to really get involved, and you can cut right across, man, and trying to find a good organization to help. There are a ton out there. Everyone is so giving in this region. I've noticed it with many people. Oh, you're taking away the mayor's teddy bear. There it is. He's keeping it. There's an organization that you can actually reach out to that actually makes a difference, and the money's going to the right places. Jill, hats off to you, and I'll see you in the morning.
Thanks, Jill. Nice job.
And here's the guy that
I dig it.
you could
Friends
use
of
it.
Jack Foundation.
Friends of Jack, definitely someone that
Nice.
you should align yourself with Mayor at times.
Absolutely. No,
Yeah.
that's great.
Jill's doing a lot of work with the. She's already in the city. She's doing work with Chief Cadero. Good relationship there.
She is, and you need people to step up like that. It's just a great example. I'm glad you had her on.
Yeah, and when you have people like the Boston Children's Hospital here in the city,
Yeah.
I mean, it does add cachet to the city's value. I mean,
Yeah, I
these,
suppose it does, although, we do things here. We don't need to have Boston here to do
Yeah.
well, right? So
But just the name, the comfort, yeah.
This is coming from a guy whose wife works at Dana-Farber, right?
Yeah.
So they're great doctors up there, I won't say anything less, but they're pretty good ones here in Greater Bedford, too.
we have a ton going on today. I want to try to get through I got this. So we're just going to hit this real fast, real hard, and get some good
Like a
answers.
lightning round.
Yeah, we're going to do a lightning round because unless you want to stay till 2:30, I got till 2:30. So it's on you.
Oh, it's all my fault.
It's all you. No, I cut him short a little bit with Jill, but it was for a good cause.
Okay.
The mayor donated some of his time today to a good cause. Your annual budget, let's
Yes,
talk about that.
sure.
It was just released. You're doing about a 5.3 to 5.8% increase
Right.
in this year's budget. A big chunk of that is education.
Right.
Another large chunk of it, which is a separate topic that we're going to be discussing, is the increase in the charter school reimbursement that you're not really getting back.
It's the net charter school cost, right?
Yes,
The
exactly.
reimbursements are getting smaller and the obligations getting bigger.
So when you release this budget, it seems like, you're increasing it 5.3% is the exact figure, but looking at it right here, on its head, it doesn't look like you're really adding much more.
The city's not adding much more at all. As we've discussed in other instances, much of what the city spends money on is dictated by state policy. Whether it's, the minimum level of funding for our school system, whether it's employee pension and healthcare benefits, whether it's other obligations to the county and others. I mean, it's largely dictated by what the state tells us. And if you look at the budget, I don't know if you've, it may be worth showing the pie chart if at some point, but, we have about a sliver, about 12% of the budget, about the size of a pizza slice in a pie chart. That is all the non-public safety departments in city government. And that's about 30 departments, and it's basically one slice of pizza out of a full pizza. So we have the discretion in theory to cut there, but it's all small. Most of it's smaller departments, and so a cut there doesn't mean that much in the whole scheme of the budget, but it could devastate a department, right?
Absolutely.
So if you eliminated the entire library system in city government, you'd save a little bit of money in the whole budget, but you'd wipe out the whole library system, right? Which is something that people like and deserve to have made available for them. So it's been a point of frustration for me that, the city doesn't have the autonomy I think taxpayers are entitled to, and but that's the way it is for now. And so what we try to do is, we've been very effective at managing our funds. The city's bond rating is the highest it's ever been. The bond rating agency's upgraded its own rating of management to very strong. So that's as high as it goes for S&P.
Let me just cut you off right there, just quickly, Mayor, excuse me. Bond rating, I get it, a lot of people don't.
Yeah.
If your bond rating increases, what does that do for the average taxpayer in your city?
It means they save money, all else being equal. So the bond rating is like a personal credit rating, right? If you go, take out a mortgage, the bank will ask for a credit report, and you'll be rated on your credit worthiness. If you've paid your bills on time, then you get a higher rating. And the same goes for cities in general, not so much about the timeliness of paying your bills, but your ability to afford all of your obligations in the long run. And so, because we've been effective at managing our finances, we've gotten a higher bond rating, and that means that we get to borrow at a lower interest rate. When we issue bonds, we don't go to a bank and borrow. We borrow by issuing bonds into the financial markets, and And because of our lower bond rating, we get a lower interest rate, and we save taxpayer dollars.
Thanks for that. You know, a lot of times you hear like, oh, the bond
No,
rating.
that's fair
and
enough.
there's-
Yeah,
and
no,
there's,
it's-
and there's
yeah, no,
people
it's
out
right.
there that are just like, oh, this is just
Yeah, you know, the
politicians
thing was-
talk again, you know?
Yeah, no, I appreciate the opportunity to give the background. I have to say, you know, when I first got into office, I didn't know a lot about municipal finance. I knew less than I thought I did. So it's important, I think, for, you know, except for those of us who are involved in it, and for most people, you don't pay attention to this stuff all the time, and so it sounds a little opaque, but, you know, so with every opportunity to explain, it's
Excellent.
time well spent.
So that being said, we're at a higher bond rating. The city is financially in a better place than we have been historically in
Yeah.
quite some time.
Yep.
But yet, with the budget going out, there's really no new projects, is what you're saying.
No, there's no
Based
new
on-
programs. I mean,
New
there is the
programs.
city, historically, the city didn't have a capital program, right? Meaning it didn't have a formalized program to build stuff and to fix roads and to fix buildings. And the last 5 years, we've had that. So, you know, a lot of like the new stuff that comes out is in the capital budget. So that includes things like the new fire station on Brock Avenue. That'll be the first fire station built in the city since 1956. You know, it was the new Jacobs Elementary School. It was like all the, you know, the big upgrades you've seen at the elementary schools across the city, the intensification of road work across the city. We're seeing a big ramp up in that, the fixing of buildings, you know, the fiber loop that we're building around the city. I mean, the list goes on and on. Until we brought Ari Sky in as our CFO, the city had no formalized capital program. We do now. But in the operating budget, which is what you were referring to before,
Yes.
you know, there aren't like major new programs, right? It's steady as she goes. We always adjust what we do in light of circumstances to make sure people get the services they need, but there isn't some like big
That
thing.
budget alone takes care of pay, health costs, the benefits, the pension, all that stuff.
All that stuff.
Now, the elephant in the room, as some have said, I'm looking at another news agency's article here. Something we've talked about, the reimbursement and how
For charter schools.
for charter schools,
Yeah.
and how the legislature has yet to really address it. How much
yeah, it's
havoc is that creating when you're making these budgets?
Well, it's really costly. So our net charter school cost next year will go up to, I think it's $15.7 million, up from about 14.1 in the current year. That's a lot of money. I mean, that's just the addition, $1.6 million. We could do a lot with that, including not tax people on that, right? It's better left in the hands of taxpayers. And certainly we could use the investments in the school system. Regardless of where you stand on charter schools, the way they are funded in Massachusetts makes absolutely no sense, right? What you do is by creating a new school, you diminish the economies of scale, right? The benefits you get from having a big district. For every new charter school you have.
You take it away.
You take it away. So, and I think people have to understand that. It's not, charter school or not charter school. It's the way they are funded in Massachusetts. Massachusetts, in theory, reimburses cities and towns that have charter schools when they are first established. It's supposed to be under the law 100% of the cost in the first year, then 25% in each of the next 5 years. But the legislature hasn't even funded that. So, to make a long story
So if
short,
they're not funding it, you're not getting reimbursed.
No, we're getting hosed. I mean, that's in plain English. And so, we have right now in the pipeline this new charter school, an expansion of an existing one, Alma Del Mar. We arranged, we're very concerned that was going to impose a tremendous cost on the city. So we entered into an agreement with Alma, blessed by the state, whereby we would create a neighborhood-based charter school of 450 students. That would be a much cheaper arrangement
Than
by a
had they had a
factor of
city
half. And then had they done what they were planning, what they alternately voted on, which is a 594-seat lottery-based school. And so that deal required the the approval of the city council, the school committee, which have both done that now, almost unanimously, and now it's in the state legislature. And it'll get voted on there soon, at least on the House side. The problem is that not all of our state delegation is on board with that, and we want to make sure that that everybody's pulling with the same oars, in the same direction.
Now, what are the arguments from those that aren't on board? Are there any valid?
So Chris Markey's done a great job taking the lead on this. There are others who are not getting on board. And their argument, frankly, is not one that holds water with me. Their argument is it's going to set a bad precedent for other places. Well, if you represent New Bedford, New Bedford should be first and foremost in your mind. And if if it doesn't pass, it'll mean about $4 million more in expenses to New Bedford, which will mean cuts in the school system, cuts in the city, and probably a tax increase, which makes absolutely no sense. The state has said you're getting a charter school. It's either going to cost $4 million upon full build-out, or it's going to cost $8 million. Which one do you want? Do you want the $8 million charter school, or you want the $4 million charter? It is that simple. It is a binary choice, and so we need to have our state legislative delegation, all of them, getting behind it. So far, Chris Markey and Paul Schmidt have been behind it, but the others need to get on board as well.
Seems like a no-brainer.
It is a no-brainer. And it seems like a no-brainer because it is. Look, I mean, I don't want any more charter seats, and it's not this philosophical aversion to charter schools per se. It has everything to do with the cost to the city. We're trying to give our kids in this district, trying to give every kid in the city our very best, and that requires resources sometimes. That's why, I've been in the news lately heading up the charge in this potential lawsuit against the state for state education funding. It's because it is more expensive to educate, tends to be more expensive to educate kids in cities because there are more kids with, who come from impoverished backgrounds, more kids who've experienced trauma, more kids who don't speak English, and it just takes more in the way of staffing and resources to get them on track, to keep them on track and up to speed. And at the same time, we have a constrained tax base. So, I'm out there fighting for it, and I hope our state legislators are stepping up and on behalf of New Bedford to make sure that we get what we need. And so, more to be continued. But, if you have, let your state legislators know that this is something that's important.
Excellent. I mean, just to go back and to kind of put this in bullet points on what the mayor just talked about, the deal of the charter school, a lot of people have wrong. You read on social media, which, a lot of it is what we do here. People saying, oh, he could have said no to the charter school. Again, what the mayor just explained was that by doing what they did, they lowered the amount of students that would be eligible to the charter school, which would then lower the amount needed in reimbursement from the state that they're not getting to begin with. So a lot of people,
people are saying on social media that I could have said no. The answer is that's just not true. I don't have the authority. The charters are issued by the state. Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, actually the Board of Elementary and Secondary Education. That is a board composed of people appointed by the governor. It is a state board that issues state charters, period. Full stop. The mayor does not have authority in the process. And
not that you're actually loving or hating the charter school itself. You just don't like the reimbursement process.
Well, it's not just the reimbursement, it's the actual obligation that comes with the issuance of the charter, right? So that when there's a charter that is issued, the money in Massachusetts, as the saying goes, follows the child, right? So that means that it's on the district to pay for those kids in the charter school, right? And so there is, because of this diminishment of economies of scale, it means that you have to pay, you got to pay another principal, you got to pay for a whole set of services, another building, all that stuff. And it's that duplication that where the real drain is. And the state, even though the state has made a promise to, in effect, to reimburse the municipalities for those costs, it hasn't funded it. And so, it puts us in a bad way. And it's a charter school law. The charter school law in Massachusetts reflects, I think, some really poor policy choices on the part of the legislature. It opens up the it opens up the doors for charter expansion, right? You don't have to be the best charter school in the state. You don't even have to be the best one in the city.
You can open.
You just have to be about average. You have to be a proven provider, which means the standard is you have to be performing at above the state average. In terms of Alma Damar, in their case, they're, according to the state's accountability index, they're right in the middle of the pack of elementary schools in the city. But if they meet that standard, that's it. If there are seats available in the city, then it can be done, regardless of the financial implications, which is crazy. I mean, it's like somebody's got to pay the bill.
Absolutely.
So anyway, I get animated about this
I know
stuff
you do.
because we do our very best to make the most of the money that we have available, and as we
A lot of people don't realize, and I didn't, the last time I sat with you, which is probably a year ago.
Has it been that long? Yeah.
Yeah, you have literally just a sliver of control of the pie where
Right.
the money goes.
Right.
But yet, something like this could really take a big chunk of a little sliver.
Right.
So it's a difficult situation you're in, and it's almost like you're backed in the corner. And if you don't like it, viewers and constituents and residents of New Bedford, you really shouldn't gripe to the mayor about this at this point. Now it's a legislative issue. I've read through this. I've had the guys from Alma Del Mar on my show. I like the opportunity to give kids a choice in education, and my wife's a teacher in the city. And that's just a personal belief of mine. But it's got to be done correctly in a way where others don't suffer, where taxpayers don't suffer, and that is a legislative issue. So if you don't like the way things are done currently, there's one thing to do. Contact your statewide legislature, your state rep, your state senator. I actually did reach out to Senator Montigny and invited him on the show today, knowing that he wouldn't come on, knowing that he wouldn't respond, or for a statement based on our next issue. So it's a good segue. Parallel Products.
Parallel Products.
Parallel Products is already doing business in the city, correct?
Parallel Products have been doing business in the city for at least 10 years now. Yeah.
Okay. And now they're looking to expand in a different section of the city.
Well, they have. What they're looking to do now is to change, to enter into a whole different line of business, and frankly, it's one that I oppose because they've historically have done glass recycling. They did that Shaman Ave for a long time. They expanded into the industrial park. They've been doing that there for a couple of years. That's nothing all that new. But what's come up since then, and as I've gotten to learn it, it became increasingly alarming just in the last couple of months, is that they want to expand into solid waste distribution. It's not a dump they're doing, but it's the idea is you truck in solid waste, they pull out recyclables, and then it goes out by rail. And then they also want to do something with sludge, with sewage, also using rails. We gave them a chance to, when I started to learn about this, I'm like, wow, that doesn't sound good. We'll give you guys a chance to explain yourselves. They did.
At first, it seemed like you and the Economic Development Committee were kind of open to the idea, which you're saying, give them a chance to explain it to you.
Well, what I'm saying is give them a chance to explain.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, is this what it looks like it is? And, they had a hearing at the Pulaski School, where we had staff there. I took a look at the video later. And I was like, this is not good. They basically affirmed that it is what it looks like. It's this big trash facility, and it's that kind of thing is just way too close to neighborhoods. You can't. We just don't have the room for that.
For those that don't know, which neighborhoods would be affected?
So it's a number of the neighborhoods in the far north end. The closest ones are, there's the Briarwood is right over there, Pine Hill Acres, those
So
two
it's the
are
Pine Hill
close.
area.
Those two particular neighborhoods are the closest ones. But I've made clear that I oppose the project. We're going to be fighting at the state level. This is one of these instances where I wish I had some more levers to pull. The city planning board has which is independent of the administration, but it's a city, entity, has the ability to review the project. They just don't have, if the project complies with zoning, they don't really have much of a recourse, really any recourse at all to stop it. the place to stop, it's at the state level, the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection, which will approve their project based on its environmental impact report. So we've already weighed in with the state. We'll continue to do that. I hope our state legislators also see it the way that I do. We'll certainly be talking to them. But
So they do see it the way you do?
I hope they do.
Okay.
I can't speak for them. You're going to have to
Like I
get, you
said,
have
I
to
reached
get them
out
on
to-
your
I reached
show.
out to
It's-
Senator Montigny and for comment on this issue for two reasons. One, he seems to be, sets himself as a progressive guy, and they're talking about biofuel, manufacturing of some sort of bio product that you can use as a fertilizer. But then when
Yeah.
you dig deeper into that, that fertilizer's eligible for sale, but there's no long-term studies on the effect of the chemicals that
Yeah,
are
I don't know.
produced.
All I know is that thing shouldn't be going where it is. So I oppose it, and I've made that clear to everybody, and I'll continue to, to push back on it. And again, it's the State Department, the State Department of Environmental Protection that will be making the decision. I don't think it's going to happen for many, many months, probably not until well into 2020, but either way, we'll make sure we make the city's case.
Excellent. Something that everybody talks about, the great savior, the green savior, 4 new marijuana applicants, 4 new host agreement applicants. We're yet to see any marijuana in New Bedford. It's something that me personally, I think that we're a little behind now. The market's pretty saturated at this point in this region with as many as we have in Fall River, Wareham, Fairhaven.
Well, if it were saturated, we probably wouldn't get 4 applicants, right? I mean, there are obviously people who are
Well,
applying.
yeah, there's people that think they're gonna, but, if you
Yeah.
look at if you look at other states, same thing happened, and, the numbers kind of went down afterwards once there's
That's
so much.
eventually down in terms of just the
Yeah,
volume of
the
sales.
volume of
or
sales
just-
based on how many, how much it is, and then the taxation added to it.
Yeah.
California's having a huge issue now because they estimated, I think they overestimated $200 million worth of revenue that they're
Yeah.
not getting anymore,
Yeah,
based on the fact that it's cheaper to get it on the streets, according to, the news you read
Yeah.
out there. These host agreements, 4 of them, one of them being at the Market Basket.
well, they're
other one-
applicants, there are no
Yeah.
host community agreements yet. We have host community agreements with two
Two.
medical providers,
Yes.
right? One is a production facility in the industrial park.
Park, yeah.
And the other was one on Hathaway Road. They're both before the Massachusetts Department of Public Health as part of that regulatory process. I can't tell you exactly where they are. I don't know.
Okay.
But they're done with the city. So I mean, the city, we have entered into these agreements, and now this new round, what's up next is the first round of potential host community agreements with recreational dispensaries.
Yes.
So different animal. If people remember, just by way of review, there was the state legalized medical marijuana, and then a couple of years later, by referendum, and then 2 or 3 years later, it did it for recreational
Recreational.
marijuana. So that we're at that point now.
What's been the holdup, you say?
I don't see any holdup, right?
You
So
don't?
to my knowledge, I don't even think there's any in Boston. Are there any in Boston? Last I checked, which was a couple of weeks ago, there were none there.
Yeah.
So so we went through, unlike a lot of other places, we went through a very thorough process to make sure that they are zoned properly, because as much as there are, folks who, want to have dispensaries, and that's their right under Massachusetts law, there are a lot of, I hear mostly from people who say, I don't want it near my house, I don't want it near my school, I don't want it near my park. And so we, the city, undertook a very thorough planning process that included a lot of public input, that created a zoning, set of zoning rules that I think work pretty well. That
Well, I'm
basically
gonna-
keep them
I'm gonna
in
jump in
industrial.
here
Well,
and-
no, let me just at least complete. So that set of zoning rules was passed unanimously by the city
It was.
council, and it's in place now, and we have 4 applicants.
Yeah, it was. I'm going to just start off by saying I voted against it, when the referendum came
Yeah.
out. So that's where I stand. But now I also stand where in this country, when a bunch of people vote for something and it passes, then it should happen.
Yeah.
Now, that
Well, they
means-
voted to legalize marijuana.
They did,
And
yeah.
it is, regardless of dispensaries.
Yeah.
People can legally smoke now,
Smoke
and
it,
they do. It's just what's not in
I don't
place.
like it, but it is what it is at this point.
Well, I voted against it too, but we're also following through on,
Yeah.
you know, the will of the voters and, in general, which is, you know, to create a system that allows for the safe use of these things in ways that don't detract from neighborhoods.
I'm also going to say this. Now, today, if marijuana were illegal and alcohol were illegal, all the studies are going to tell you that alcohol is way worse. Every single one of them. But yet we have liquor stores on every corner, but we couldn't have a dispensary be zoned at a former strip club that served alcohol. That's where I start getting lost in the, hey, we really zone this, you know, and that's where a lot of people, that's the disconnect between a lot of constituents and myself. I mean, and I like I said, I preface this with saying I don't agree with it.
Yeah.
But I also am going to look at it for, it is what it is. Like, alcohol's worse, but we have plenty of liquor stores across the street from the city parks. We had an establishment that not only had provided adult entertainment, it also provided the alcohol, but now we can't do a dispensary there. To me,
Right.
there's something that doesn't make sense there.
Right. Well, look,
And I'm not alone here, Mayor.
I get that, Chris. What I'd say to you is this. It is legal. People can privately consume it, right, for starters, right? There's nothing stopping them from doing that now. Secondly, you know, look, if we put the zoning rules in place and there were 4 applicants, right? It's not like they came back and after putting this in place and that nobody
Yeah,
applied,
of
right?
course, yeah.
So that says something about the workability of the rules. It sounds like, yeah, there is room for it. And look, in the long run, if there needs to be tweaks to the zoning program, yeah, we're open to that, right? It's not
Well, that's good to hear.
set in
At least
stone.
you-
It's
yeah.
not set in stone, right? I mean, this is all new to Massachusetts. It's new to New Bedford, and yeah, you can make arguments about, you know, what's riskier to one's health and to neighborhood health is between alcohol and marijuana, but the reality is that it's all new. Let's see how it plays out, you know, and if there's tweaking to do in the zoning regs, then that can be done. I think you at least have to have this first go around first to see how it goes.
I like that answer. It shows that you're open to making correction on,
Yeah, I mean,
on your
I can't say
assessment.
that I'm like, hey, geez, you know,
Yeah.
it's just, you know, we're giving this a shot and
No,
it's
I'm good with
100%
that.
right. We might
I think
we might not be
everybody should
right.
be good with that response because it does show that you're not, you know, going to put your, you know, bury your shoes in some fresh concrete and stand there. You know,
I would never do that,
You know,
Chris.
you're able to say, hey, I called this wrong.
Yeah.
And a lot of people should appreciate that from their legislators. It's not flip-flopping. It's saying, hey, let me look at it first. Let me see what happens, and then we can tweak it.
Right.
That's actually very respectable, excuse me. Next on the, I'm trying to fire through these now. because
Yeah,
then we gotta
there's
get
so
to
much for the
questions.
lightning round,
Oh,
man. It's
gosh,
just-
I got to have you on next week, I guess. Police union had this meeting where they did a survey. They're unhappy. Chief Cadero was part of it. Where I'm sure you're very well aware of the situation. I know that you, you know, talk well with the heads of your department. You have a good communication line with them. How do you feel about this current situation in your police department?
Look, it's unfortunate. I mean, these things, I mean, candidly, I mean, these things happen when there are, you know, negotiations going on with the union, right? So these things don't happen just out of the blue, right? So, you know, all that said, you know, what I'd say, and I've said this publicly, I've said this privately, it's, look, you know, if there are specific issues, let's get them out on the table. Let's address them. And, you know, Joe Cadero, I think, is doing a great job as police chief. I think wherever you go in the city, even in the neighborhoods where we've had the most, you know, most trouble, people will say, yeah, things have gotten better. What I would say is, though, you know, look, he and I and everybody in city government is expected to work on getting better all the time. We'll do that. We're open to feedback. But, you know, in the absence of specifics, in the absence of like, hey, look, you need to do this, you know, this is not getting acted on, whatever, if those things, we're not getting that, then it's hard to separate out, you know, negotiating tactics or outright complaining from actually legitimate, you know, feedback, right? So I would just say the more specific that could be, the better. And, you know, it ought not to happen publicly, but even if it happens publicly, we're open to, you know, to acting on it.
So it's too broad the survey?
So the survey was passed out at a union,
Yeah.
so it's not exactly like this was, a Gallup poll done, right? So, but all that said, I don't mean to be totally dismissive about it, but people have to understand the context, right? These happen in the course of, negotiations.
Okay, fair enough. We already touched upon the charter school.
We're making our way
I
through
did my
your
list.
list.
I did my list. We're done. Annual budget, parallel products,
Yeah.
4 new applicants,
Yeah.
police union, charter school. Now we'll jump on to yours. It's 2:05. What do you got left?
It's 2:05.
I'm already 5 minutes past my time.
It's almost the end of the school day, right?
Yeah.
I think there were a couple of things that,
Bring it up.
a couple of things that are
Yeah.
worth talking about. I mean, so we had an event earlier today. Josh covered it at the high school. Every year the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education names a Teacher of the Year. And there are 70,000 teachers in the state. And this year, the Teacher of the Year for the state was Takiro Nagioshi, who's an English teacher at the high school, who does a fabulous job, and he gave some really terrific remarks, and I really wanted to say nice job to them for being for being effective, but also just having a a standard of excellence there that not everybody's aware of, but I will tell you, if you were there today, you'd say, yeah, New Bedford High School has really turned the corner. It really is, and I'm sure your wife could tell you that as well. It's really made some enormous strides in the last few years.
Something I
Yeah.
told her, I told Jonathan, my wife had told me, teacher, I don't know if it correlates with your change in your superintendent. Little birdie told me that it did. Teacher absentee days off that they've taken sick time is way down in her school.
Yeah, well, that's a good thing. I think the morale of the teacher corps is up. Our Thomas Anderson, our superintendent, has been really effective at communicating. His emphasis is on building up the capacity of the teachers and the administrators in the system to do their job effectively. It's a very very different approach, and I think he's off to a great start. Almost the end of his first school year. It's gone by like that.
Yeah.
But so that's good. A couple of other shout outs that say, keep an eye on that, on the Voc Tech boys volleyball team. They're rated #1 in the state right now. They're doing fabulous. Richie Gomes, the coach, is doing a
Great job there.
great job there. The other thing I'd say is, in the next year, you're going to see a lot of work starting to build up on the waterfront. You're really going to see, there are two big trends happening, and we could spend a whole show talking about this, but I'll just say this briefly. The entire East Coast fishing industry is gravitating to New Bedford now, right? So we've had a 67% increase in out-of-state vessels landing here. Now there are more North Carolina-based scallopers landing their fish in New Bedford than they are in North Carolina now, and that just continues to grow, which is interesting. It's last year 2017, 142 out-of-state vessels landing here, so that's 142 small businesses coming into the city.
100%.
So that's a big trend. At the same time, offshore wind is really coming, and it's real. I think a lot of people thought I was talking about the tooth fairy, like it's gonna.
Well, South Coast Rail actually is starting to see stuff
Well,
on
so
Kings Highway.
that's starting to be real as well. And that's a few years out, and that's another positive element. But the offshore wind industry really is happening. I think next year, we're predicting in the fourth quarter of 2020, you'll see, so about a little less than a year and a half out, you'll start to see these massive wind components arriving on the waterfront, and then people will see,
It'll become
this
real.
stuff's very real. So, with that will come a significant amount of investment and activity, and, we're trying to make the most of that now.
Excellent. Can I give you two 20-second answer questions?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, the building, which I parked across from today, the big hole on Union Street, that's not there anymore. Any updates
The
on?
Keystone Building.
Yes.
Yeah, we have tried over the years to get that filled. That was the Keystone building. It used to, for years had a number of roles, but, primarily as a furniture store that a lot of people would remember. It's owned by Mass Development, which I think is a good thing because they really want to make that investment work. It's going to take a firming up of the real estate market still. As the real estate market is hot nationally, and it certainly is firmed up in New Bedford, but, you know, we've worked with 2 or 3 developers. We have one that we're in particular right now, we're trying to encourage to invest there, but that is, I would love to get that space filled, and we're trying. We're really, all I can say is we're really trying to do that.
Excellent, excellent. And potholes, which you said road work update, so I guess
Yeah.
we'll go to potholes again.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I mean,
it's
it's
a look
been
at.
raining for a month straight, so there's gonna be potholes. You can't fill in potholes and fix them when it's raining.
It's harder to do when it's raining, for sure, but look, you know, we're on it all the time. We fill over 10,000 potholes a year, and, you know, our guys do a great job doing that, and sealing cracks in the roadways. You know, the city, as I mentioned earlier, has, you know, a road program now. It never had one in the past that matches, close to matches the state's contribution to road construction. So there's more money being spent on roads now than there's been in the last 20 years. So so eventually it's going to catch up. I mean, the reason is the roads haven't kept up because the investment in them hasn't kept up. You can't just stop for a few years and then pick it up again. It has to be continual. So that's what we're doing now.
This last thing is New Bedford Online Dashboard. How about this? Set up with Jonathan. I'll go to your office and we can do a live stream to discuss
Yeah.
solely that 15, 20 minutes.
Yeah,
just
we can
on
talk.
that.
We can talk about that. Yeah.
Because I think that's something important. We're bringing.
Yeah, we're trying to bring more transparency to city government, the open checkbook, that thing, MB Compass, a number of other things. We just want the more, and we're getting back to where we started, Chris, I mean, the more that we can get people to understand how their taxpayer dollars are being used, the better informed everybody will be.
Yeah, I mean, when you discuss taxes and you discuss anything in politics
It's
citywide,
ice
it just
glaze
seems,
over.
yeah, you know.
No, and I get it. I totally get it.
It's tough to hear, like, and
Look, and
it
you know,
took
when
me
as I
having to,
sit
like,
here,
go and do
when I
it.
sit here, I know I run the risk of boring people to tears
Yeah.
by talking about this stuff, but people are entitled to hear it.
Yeah.
So I try to be as clear as I can.
I'd love
And
to-
if
I'd
I-
love
and
to
if I
help.
bored you at all, my apologies. It's part of my
you're good.
job.
Couple events that I want to talk about: Red, White, and Brew at the Zoo. Tons of fun this Friday, May 17th, at the zoo.
Yeah,
It's a
good
great
event.
fundraiser.
Good event.
Good event.
To support the
Operation
zoo.
Clean Sweep. I mean, Saturday, May 18th. Go get a garbage bag, get involved, and clean up your neighborhood. I mean, we could sit here and talk to the mayor and badger him on potholes and the hole on Union Street and how there's no marijuana in the city, but you can make a difference. Grab a trash bag and join Clean Sweep. And then the Taste of the South Coast, great event, also on Sunday. Tons of stuff going on this weekend.
Yeah. And this is really, this weekend usually is the start of when the events ramp up
Yeah.
all the way through August, so it's good.
That's something I want to do a show specifically on, is just to discuss like all the stuff that's happening in the city. Like, all right, we have our best 3 months coming up at us right now.
Yeah.
Do something with it. Enjoy it. Be part of it. Know all the events that are going
Exactly.
on.
I tell people all the time, enjoy the city. It's a great place. Enjoy it.
I hang out
It offers
downtown
a
as
lot.
much as possible.
Yeah.
2-hour increments, of course, but I hang out downtown as much as possible.
Here we go.
That's
We
a
can
bad-
talk about that,
I'm
too.
not doing that. I'm not going there. Mayor, thank you so
All right,
much.
thanks, Chris. Appreciate it.
Everybody, thank you. Hope to see you at these events. Hope that you get involved tomorrow. Busters, Max's, oh gosh, Dockside, Cask and Pig. Why wouldn't I think of my?
Sounds
I was the
delicious.
best man, and I was the best man at Mario's wedding, but I forgot his restaurant. You are by going out to eat with your family. You're helping out. I mean, the Bears. You should see that. Like after I spoke with Jill yesterday, and again today, Friends of Jack doing so much good. She is just so sincere and just looking to help children. One thing we can all agree on is we're trying to make the world a better place for the next generation, our kids, and comfort them and comfort the parents that are going through tough times. Support Friends of Jack. Head out tomorrow, Friends for Tots. I'm also going to go live tomorrow to remind you, so you'll get sick of me by the end of the week, because then we got the real estate show on tomorrow as well. Real Estate 101 with the best minds in the business. Chris Resendes Show. Thank you, everybody. See you tomorrow.